Welcome to episode 4 of the Stoned Witches Hour with your hosts, Shell and Layla. This week, we smoke some fire and explore hauntings and history across the U.S., starting with a sleepy little New York town and a Colorado hotel that was too frightening for a funny man. It's 4:20 a.m. Prepare to get high and spooked. I'm Layla.
I'm Shell. Tonight on episode 4, we've got some cool stories for you. I'm going to talk about Sleepy Hollow, New York.
And I'm going to talk about the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
Prepare to get spooked and high.
Get your bongs ready. Get your, I don't know.
Pipe. Get your pipe ready.
Get your pipe, get your bong, get your pre-roll, get your crying blanket. I don't know. What do you get when you're scared? Like if you're going to grab your teddy bear, grab your bong, your pretzel chips, and a teddy bear. Get prepared to be spooked.
Because we're headed down to Spooksville.
Spooksville? Really?
I don't know. You can't have high and perfection at the same time. One or the other.
That's probably true. So you got 10 inches of snow, huh?
Yeah. And, this was our first snow, which is like, I feel like 2 months late. So
it's freaking January.
It's weird, but normal, all in the same thing, I guess. And of course, you know how it is. Everybody acts like, oh my God, this is the first time I've ever seen snow in my life.
It's worse here because they do that with rain. We all get crazy.
Yeah. Same thing in the greater Boston area. You get all these things, you don't have a shovel in your car. What did I get the other day? I got an alert to have water, gloves, boots, socks, a blanket, a shovel, hand warmers, and I can't remember what else. And I'm like, do I need a grocery list for this?
Sometimes being overprepared can come in handy. I mean, look at what just happened with all those people that were stranded for like 24 hours on the interstate in Virginia.
Yeah.
I think we're more prepared for that in the Northeast. We're New Yorkers. We're ready for that shit. We're going to be snowed in at any moment in the summertime. So we're prepared.
True that. I don't know. I guess you have to be from the depths of New York to be able to A, drive, and B, acclimate to extreme weather changes on a dime.
So true. So we dropped our first episodes, and even better, I was looking at the different states. People have been listening to us all over the country, admittedly more East Coast. So come on, West Coast has got to step it up here, but
because we know we're scarier, duh.
That's right. New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Kansas, California, Ohio, Florida, all over the place. People have been listening to us from all over. I'm super impressed.
That's awesome.
I was expecting, maybe 5s of listeners.
We're at 10s.
We're at 10s of listeners. So we have already exceeded my expectations, Shell. I'm very happy.
We're doing well.
Yes, we are. And I'm having fun with it. So what else could you ask for?
Exactly. And I'm here once again, high, eating my Snack Factory pretzel crisps.
I love those pretzel crisps.
Right now I'm eating the everything ones, but I found at the store the other day, I found regular, buffalo, and everything. So I restocked on a bag of each.
Smart woman.
These things are addictive. And these everything ones, you can eat them in the morning. And it's like, you feel like you're eating a bagel because it's everything, but you're not getting all that bread of a bagel. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like just the good parts of the bagel. Just the good parts.
I love pretzels.
They're so good. I had those everything bagels with some really spicy guacamole on New Year's. Oh, it was so good. It was the best.
Not a big guacamole fan. Avocados frighten me. Yeah, no.
What? You just spoke blasphemy. You know where I live, right?
I like salsa.
Have you ever had guacamole salsa?
Yeah, and I didn't like it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't like avocado.
To each their own, right? To each their own.
I won't even eat sushi that has avocado chunks in it.
Oh, now you're just limiting yourself. That's okay. When we go have sushi, I'll eat those. Just give them to me. I got you. So speaking of New Year's, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is our first episode that we are recording in the new year.
It is. It's been crazy.
We're only a little ways into January and it has already been insane. First of all, we've dropped our new podcast. We've gotten tens of listeners. Thank you, by the way, all of you 10
Thank you.
people.
Thank you.
Love it. And just everything that's going on. It's just so much. But did you make any New Year's resolutions, Shell?
No. Why torture myself? Why tell myself lies? Why tell myself lies? Come on now.
That's true. Most people actually give up their New Year's resolutions, right? It doesn't usually
I've never met a person yet who has followed through with a New Year's resolution.
I think I always make my New Year's resolutions as vague as possible so that I can be like, oh yeah, I'm still following that, sort of.
You get the people who are like, oh, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do this more. I'm going to do this less. Like, do you need New Year's to make that stuff happen if that's what you really want? No. So if you've been duping yourself all along, you're going to dupe yourself even if you call it a resolution.
Very good point. Very good point. And I think people expect too much of themselves. I mean, the New Year is fun and all, and everybody putting their intention towards that really does help make it kind of special. It gives it that, that magical energy of intention because everybody's thinking about it. But that's not enough to overcome a whole lifetime of habits. You have to start small. You can't make these huge, I'm going to change everything about myself. You get frustrated.
Right. I think people put over expectations onto themselves that are kind of unrealistic to reach.
And why put that pressure on yourself? Like you said, there's so much already in the new year.
You just got to every day wake up and figure out what the hell can I do better?
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. I like that. I just want to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday.
Even if it's in August and not January 1st,
I make resolutions on the Witch's New Year on Samhain. I actually did make resolutions then. I didn't make resolutions at the January New Year.
See, that's different though. I try to make magical resolutions then. Like, I'm going to try to put more intent into things, or I'm going to try to focus on this aspect a little more. That's different than like changing my whole lifestyle and I'm going to lose 75 pounds in the next 40 days. And, I'm going to never say a swear word ever again.
Oh, fuck that.
Now.
Like that would ever happen.
Like these unrealistic things. I do try to set upon myself magical expectations on the Witch's New Year. Yes.
Same. I think I've found that the intentions that I make on Samhain tend to be very personal, and they do tend to be something that I check in with myself on.
My New Year's resolution is to continue to eat these Snack Factory pretzel crisps. I love these things.
I don't know if I'm happy or sad that you introduced me to them because I'm addicted to the same three you mentioned, the buffalo, the plain, and the everything. So good.
So good. Love them. Well, you know how I get these weird, like, high thoughts?
Oh, hold on. Okay. High thoughts from Shell. High thoughts from Shell. High thoughts from Shell. All right,
this is like, I love that. This is a good, I don't know, a brain teaser. So we were talking about how we have tens of listeners.
Hi, tens. We love you.
Hi, tens. We love you. And I was thinking about my children, my adult children, and how I know one of them has listened to it and thinks it's fabulous. And the other one has been busy in life and hasn't had a chance to listen yet. She'll get there.
I love them both, but I love the younger one more.
Exactly. So, but then I got to thinking the younger one that has listened and loves it doesn't like roller coasters, but likes scary things. And the one who hasn't had the time to listen yet hates scary things, but loves roller coasters. Like this child, like if you say, oh, you want to go to a haunted house at a carnival, she will not. And it's like, this is fake. These are actors. and like she's petrified, but yet she'll hop on a roller coaster that me and my younger child will not. And him and I are the ones that would run to that haunted house. So
I love that.
Is there a correlation between you like paranormally haunted, ghosty things and not roller coasters versus you love roller coasters but hate everything scary?
Oh, that's a very good question. I like them both. I love roller coasters and I love scary things.
You just killed my high theory.
I know, I'm sorry, but maybe we need a bigger sample size. We need more people. Maybe people should email us at thestonedwitcheshour@gmail.com and tell us, do you like roller coasters or do you like haunted houses or do you like both?
It's just an interesting thing I was thinking about while high.
I'm curious. I'm curious to know what the ratio is, if there is one.
Maybe it's just some weird correlation between my two children. I don't know. I find it interesting because my daughter thinks that the ghosty paranormal thing is the scary thing that'll kill her. And me and my son think that it's the roller coaster that's plunging us to our death that is going to kill us.
And I just love them both.
Yeah, yeah.
Scare me. The scarier, the better. Do you remember when we were kids and all of a sudden there were like whole house haunted houses that you could go to? Like,
yes.
Yeah, like way before the big theme park haunted stuff. All of a sudden, instead of just like a little, the local fire department would do a cute little haunted house or whatever, somebody would turn a whole house into an experience. And from the moment you step out of your car, walking across the yard or whatever, it's an experience. There's actors and people. Yeah. I went to one of those as a teenager with my boyfriend, maybe 17 at the time. And where he had parked, you couldn't get in or out of the passenger side door. It was like kind of a ditch up against a little hill. So I had to slide across the bench seat and get out the driver's side door. So we go through this whole haunted house and it was super scary and spooky and I kind of loved it, but I was being all cool and macho, because I'm macho. I'm all cool and, brave and like, I'm not scared. This is just fun. And so we're coming across and we're kind of laughing and I'm continuing my cool act. We get to the car and I open the driver's side door and I slide across the bench seat and I turn around to say something to my boyfriend. And there's a zombie face 2 inches from mine in the center of the bench seat of this car. I lost my shit. I screamed so loud. I forgot where I was. I forgot who I was. I thought I was about to die in that moment. And my boyfriend, I thought he was going to pee himself on the outside of the car.
I think that those types of haunted houses are few and far between, but I am happy to report that I actually went to one just like that right before the pandemic started. But it's called Spooky World. Shout out to Spooky World. And I got chased across the parking lot to our vehicle by a guy with a chainsaw. I was kind of scared.
Oh, wow. That sounds very scary. I love that stuff, though. But yeah, what do you like? Do you like scary movies and scary haunted houses? Are you the first one to dress up for Halloween and spook your friends? And you hate roller coasters? Or do you love roller coasters? The scarier, the better. The steeper the hill, the bigger the loop-de-loop, but you will not set foot inside a haunted house. Or are you weird like me and you just like everything?
Let us know. Email us.
Slide into our DMs.
Ooh, that sounds kind of weird.
Spookily. Slide into our DMs for the spooky stuff. Here's the spooky details. Spill the spooky tea.
Spill the spooky tea. Hey, and then we could do tea leaf readings.
Hey, there you go. See? Perfect. It's perfect. Spill the spooky tea.
We need to talk about ghosty stuff.
We do. Let's get into some of that. Let's see.
I think we're too high that we're stuck in talking about high
right stuff. And what are you talking about today?
Today I'm going to talk about Sleepy Hollow.
Ooh,
Sleepy Hollow, New York. The legend of Sleepy Hollow, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. The whole kit and caboodle was Sleepy Hollow.
Nice. Well, I'm lighting a joint.
I've been smoking these chillums again. But what I've been doing is I've been grinding my own and packing my own chillums instead of buying them pre-packed.
Oh, that's so sustainable of you. I love that.
That's why I had to get with the times and use a grinder, updated technology.
Look at you. 2022, you got a grinder. You're reusing chillums. Shell, you got this.
Maybe that was my resolution, was to use more sustainable methods to smoke my weed.
That is not a bad resolution to have, and one that, you can just keep trying to work on. It's not like, oh, I bought some packaged weed. I'm fucked up for the year. I'm done. You just do better next time.
Do better next time. I might have to buy it shitty packaged, but at least I will sustainably smoke it.
That's right. And like you said earlier, tomorrow when you wake up, just be a little bit better.
Exactly. I want to talk about Sleepy Hollow because This is like the OG of American folklore. Sleepy Hollow is from like, I don't know, like 1796, I believe, 1786, something in along those lines.
It's like 100 years or so after the Salem witch trials.
Yeah, actually about that. So the legend of Sleepy Hollow, everybody talks about Halloween, similar to the Salem witch trials. Big Halloween story. I don't know. I like spooky stuff all year long. It
Me
doesn't
too. Funny
necessarily.
how this seems to only pop up around Halloween. Like, I like this stuff all the time. Well, it's January and we're talking about it now. So
I don't know. I guess it's like you think about Santa Claus in December kind of thing. Maybe you only think about spooky things during October. I don't know.
okay, fair enough.
I don't know. But the legend of Sleepy Hollow actually comes from Washington Irving's 1820 tale of a headless horseman who terrorizes the real life village of Sleepy Hollow.
So Sleepy Hollow, the town, is a real place.
It is a real place. You might have sometimes heard of it as North Tarryton, New York.
Oh, I have heard of that.
Kind of the same place. You know how like New York likes to rename towns sometimes to better.
So confusing. And sometimes like the official name of the town is different than what everybody calls the town.
Exactly. This is one of those deals.
Okay.
Absolutely. Washington Irving was like this author, used to write books in the early 1800s, but it's not a fictional story. It was based on folklore he heard when he moved to Sleepy Hollow. So basically he moves to Sleepy Hollow for, I don't know, I didn't check out why. He moves to Sleepy Hollow and all the townspeople start telling him all these stories and he decides to write a book about it. So that's kind of how the book came about and the legend of Sleepy Hollow as we know it today. But there is some truth behind it, and there is a story that prompted that legend, and there are things that happen on occasion to this day that I thought might be interesting and fun to talk about.
Very cool. Well, what is the story of Sleepy Hollow?
It is a revolutionary soldier that is supposedly murdered in the vicinity of the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery on a bridge, a little, the little bridge that crosses the creek kind of thing. He was killed as almost like, think of it as a prisoner of war, and got his head blown off by a cannon.
Holy shit, he got his head blown off by a cannon?
Got his head blown off by a cannon.
Why were they firing a cannon? Who the fuck's firing cannons just for fun? Is this like those people that on New Year's go out and fire their guns? Like, do people in Tarryton, New York just fire cannons for no reason?
No, this was during the Battle of White Plains, which was a battle.
I know White Plains, New York.
It was around 1776. Now, a couple of stories I looked into said that it happened around Halloween of 1776. That could be the Halloween Association, but I wasn't there. I don't know what month it was.
Kind of like Ouija boards, dates like Halloween, I think attract things or just attract our imagination.
Pretty much. So this soldier has been decapitated by a cannonball during the Battle of White Plains around Halloween 1776.
How sad for him. That's terrible.
Yeah, so he basically, his spirit was pissed off and he never left and haunted that bridge in that cemetery.
I'd be pissed too if I lost my head to a cannonball.
Like, that's like, how violent.
Did he see that coming? You're like, oh, well, there's no dodging that.
Apparently not.
Nobody said duck. I mean, come on.
Apparently not. And strangely enough, there was actually a historical figure named Ichabod Crane. So that was actually based on a real person.
Ooh, so there's more. So real town, real person.
Real town. And there actually was this soldier that was
got his head blown off. Wow. Yep. Okay. So there's a lot of facts to back this up.
So, it's actually based on some Revolutionary wartime facts. So, this guy, Washington Irving, comes to town, hears all this, and really what he wrote is kind of really what they say happened. Around the time where he got his head blown off, he reappears on that bridge. He will chase people Folks have claimed to be chased, folks have disappeared. There's been, in the mid to late 1800s, several instances where people would go courting in the cemetery, is the words they used.
Courting? Do people still go courting?
Courting in the cemetery.
Going courting in the cemetery is probably like a first date at a horror movie, right?
I guess, yeah.
A little scare, get a little nervous.
Get a little close.
A little close.
So there was instances reported of teenagers going in there to do their thing and disappearing and never being seen again.
Do you think all these makeout spots being haunted is because they're actually haunted, or it's because the grown-ups want to scare the kids away from these dark, secluded places?
I think it's a mixture, because if you are going to go courting to a place that has paranormal activity, you're asking for trouble.
I think so. And, a lot of this paranormal stuff happens at night in secluded, dark places. And where are you going to go make out? At night in a secluded, dark place. So
right.
I guess it's just like same location kind of thing. You're bound to run into one or the other.
Right.
Okay.
And,
cool.
and I guess it's a 50-50 chance if you're going to disappear.
Well, you're going to either get some kids making out or you're going to find a ghost, one or the other.
Right. So apparently there were documented instances where people felt like they were being chased by a revolutionary soldier that was carrying his own head. There were instances where people felt that he threw his head at them. Imagine walking through a cemetery at night. Now, picture us, a little high, a little giggly, walking through a cemetery, and this apparition of a guy on a horse is standing in front of us and it throws its head at us. Like, I'd shit.
I guess it depends on how high I am. I would either alternate between, oh, horsey, look, there's a cute horsey, completely ignoring the apparition while you're grabbing me by the back of my sweatshirt and pulling me away.
Right? See, I guess the problem is that most interactions with the headless horseman appear to be a spirit seeking revenge. And
yeah, it does not sound like I would be happy with the horse for very long as it comes bearing down on me, trying to kill me.
He feels that his head was basically unfairly taken from him.
Well, no shit, it was. A cannonball to the head, that is very unfair. How do you defend against that?
Seriously.
I'd want a do-over. I'd be like, okay, hello, I'm restarting this game because that's unfair. So I don't blame the guy.
So the horseman, it's almost like he's still seeking answers and retribution, can't rest, the whole haunted ghost thing. But I was digging, and as recently as 2017, someone had a sighting of the headless horseman right outside the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery.
Wait, 2017 was 5 years ago? 4 years ago? 2017 was 5 years ago, Shell.
Yeah. So
where did you see him?
Near the cemetery in the bridge. Same place it's always been seen.
So somebody went down to the cemetery and they saw the headless horseman on his horse right near that bridge.
And felt like they could feel the breath from the horse.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, the person who had that encounter has since passed away.
Oh, shit. Did the ghost get them? Like, what did they die of?
No, it didn't really say. I don't know if there was anything spooktacular behind that person's death, but they are ultimately, my point about that was that it's not someone that can kind of publish more experiences or stories or be investigated or interviewed or anything of that nature.
Right.
There's a lot more to Sleepy Hollow than the headless horseman.
Really? Like, that's all you ever hear about? Sleepy Hollow, headless horseman. There's more?
There's more. Because actually, like I've come to find out, which is kind of cool, like the whole town seems to be haunted.
Really?
There's a instance of a girl about 6 or 7 years old that lived around 1916 that is around the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery as well. She's crying. You always hear a woman crying and a child crying. The girl, it's almost like the girl is looking for her mother. People can hear a woman kind of crying in one direction, but yet this 6 or 7 year old girl seems to be in a different direction, almost like they're seeking each other out but can't find each other.
Wow. Does anyone know their history? That sounds, I mean, as a mom, that scares the shit out of me. Has any psychic or anyone tried to like find out?
Not that I have found, but there is a statue of a woman that is seated and it's described as twice life size. I'm telling you, when you come to New York, we need to go to Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah,
real.
we do. Yeah, we're going.
So there's like double life size statue of a seated woman, and the weeping girl, her ghost, always seems to climb into that statue's lap, and the statue seems to be crying. Multiple people have experienced this. The folklore goes, if you look at the statue, if you crawl into her lap, you will be forever looked after. If you look at her and don't crawl into her lap, you will be cursed.
So if you look at this statue, you have to like get up in its lap or you're in trouble.
Apparently.
Well,
and
I'm sitting in that lady's lap.
A woman's family heard this through 10 generations of her family. The story had been passed on, and her and her friend went to this cemetery in sometime in the early 70s. Teenagers going to check it out, having a little fun. They decided that they were going to go to this, I guess it's like a bronze kind of statue. And they both went up to the statue and were obviously scared. You know, you freak yourself out, anxiety. The one girl just looked at the statue and kind of touched it and then ran away. And the other girl actually did crawl up into its lap when she was there by herself.
Oh, shit.
Shortly after.
Oh, shit.
The girl who did not crawl up into its lap was hit by a car.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And that was in like the 70s.
How's the other kid doing?
Absolutely fine.
Wow. Wow.
So there's a superstition about this particular statue in the cemetery, which, yes, it's still the same cemetery, but it is separate and apart from the legend of the headless horseman.
It got its own legend.
Right. There are actually a lot of famous people in this cemetery. William Carnegie was one of them. There was a couple other. It's definitely old and kind of creepy. It's got its own life to it above and beyond the headless horseman. There was another part. Now, this is where I have to laugh. You know, I kind of joked before that everything goes back to a Ouija board. Well, in this instance, everything goes back to witches.
It's the witches' fault.
They actually used to accuse people of being witches because of some of the spooktacular things that were happening there. In 1770, there was a story, a legend of someone called Hulda the Witch. She was supposed to be some German witch person, probably just a medicine woman or a healer that was wrongly named. They actually hold a festival now in her honor, but they thought that at some points she was like summoning evil spirits to kind of haunt the town. There was some accusations of witchcraft.
Yeah, probably because she washed her hands before she midwifed somebody. Ooh, evil.
Yeah, right. But, you know, luckily, like I said, this was around 1710 or so, 1720. So at that point, the witch craze had kind of simmered down. And although they called her a witch, she was never persecuted or, you know, anything in that way. One more cool one is called Spook Rock. It's sometimes referred to as Raven Rock or Spook Rock. And this is actually on a different side of town than the cemetery.
But it's still in the same...
Still in Sleepy Hollow. And it's supposedly haunted by a Native American girl who is roaming the land, laminating her death.
Lamenting her death. Laminating is covering in plastic.
Lamenting. I'm stoned.
I'm so stoned. I just smoked a whole joint of that Fire OG straight to the head. And I'm surprised I caught the laminating.
At least you knew what I was talking about. See?
So this Native American girl walks around lamenting her death. Like, how did she die again?
A colonial girl stole her man. She got into a kind of jumping to her death situation
No.
She was pushed to the brink. And her soul kind of roams the land at this place called Spook Rock.
So she committed suicide. She jumped to her death at Spook Rock over a man. Fuck that.
Brokenhearted. Yeah,
Oh,
brokenhearted.
girl, there are better guys out there.
What's worse is there was a baby,
Whose baby?
her baby that she left behind.
No, was it hers and the cheating dudes?
It was hers and the cheating dudes.
Oh,
And
man.
that baby died of starvation.
Oh, so she committed. Oh, so it was like a. Oh, that's so sad.
So she is angry and she cannot cross over. And she can be heard crying all night on the riverbank. She can be seen kind of in a Native American type outfit, walking along the river, up and down the riverbank. Generally, if approached by a female, she's just weepy and sobby, but has been known to attack males that her spirit has encountered. Men have felt being choked. They have felt being strangled, like they're losing their breath, losing air, can't breathe, type of attacks. She's angry and she's hurt and she's still there.
Wow, that's sad.
You got to figure, the legend of Sleepy Hollow, the headless horseman, that's a great story and all, but when you're talking about a town in America that's been around since the early 1700s, there is bound to be a lot of death, a lot of heartache, a lot of ghosty paranormal stuff just based on the history of what's happened on that land.
Well, we're a baby country in a lot of ways. We haven't been around for very long. And however, the oldest colonial settlements are in the Northeast, in places like Massachusetts. And so, like you said, they're bound to have a history of death and torment and
right. And then you figure, what the colonial folks did in terms of commandeering land from Native Americans. A lot of blood lost in the Northeast, and a lot of sad spirits up in this neck of the woods.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's sad.
Sleepy Hollow has a lot of haunted histories that run deep and are very relevant to this day as far as experiences and sightings and things of that nature that don't necessarily have to do with the headless horseman. I honestly think with Sleepy Hollow in particular, I just think it is so much for so many years. I don't necessarily think has any attractant or, any sort of portal type things going on. I think it's just a place that has a long kind of shitty history at some points, a lot of heartache, just some people that are stuck that just can't leave. I just think it's just an old town. Not necessarily an attractant, but an old town.
Yeah, an old town with a lot of sad history.
Sleepy Hollow as a whole, if you are looking for ghosty paranormally experiences, I think it's a must go to. So what is it that you're smoking today? You seem to be puffing on a cutie little pipe. Love when you smoke a pipe.
I am smoking a cutie little pipe. This is one that my husband got me because he knows I like cutie little things. It's got
Love it.
A little lizard. Do you see my little froggy lizard guy?
That is cute. I like your little lizard. Looks like a lizard on a birch tree.
Yeah, I was an artist that we saw back before the pandemic. We used to go to a lot of the cannabis festivals in California. We'd drive around because, being from a prohibition state, it was really nice to come out here and not only have pot shops that we could go to, but we could go to marijuana festivals and just walk right in. High Times festivals. Everybody had a festival. And there was a nice girl sitting there with some glass that she had blown, and this was one of the pipes.
Very cool.
But yes, tonight I'm smoking some Fire OG Kush. What's in your pipe tonight?
Banana punch. Now, very good, like the high, does not taste like neither banana or punch. I had the greatest experience the other day at my local marijuana shop.
Oh, good experiences at pot shops. Do tell.
You're in a state that has kind of pioneered a lot of this stuff, whereas I'm in a state that it's a little newer. So I go in And they're like, oh, do you want to go to our bud bar? And I'm like, what is a bud bar? You know me. I'm just like, just give me the weed. Come on, people. So I go over to this bud bar, and what it is, so previously you would go in, you'd look at a menu and, just like a restaurant, and you'd pick something and they'd go get this prepackaged amount. You could either get, like a half gram or a gram pre-roll, an eighth, a half, there was set amounts you could get. So I go over to this bud bar, brand new. They have like big jars all along the wall, like not mason jars, but think mason jars.
Like those cheese puff containers, the ones that come in that big plastic container, the round cheese
Kinda,
puffs and like
but
that.
glass, but
Right.
glass. Yeah. I'm like, hey, wow. So they don't have a menu. They just have all the jars labeled. And what this sheet is that they give you, it gives you like every single measured increment you could think of. So you could go in there and be like, hey, I got $26.34. Can you get me $26.34 of banana punch? And they will, with these little tweezers, go into this jar and weigh out $26.34 worth. I was just, I don't know, I was taken aback. I was like, this is so great. How old school am I? Where I was so like flabbergasted that you could just go in there and any amount you wanted or any dollar amount you wanted. So I'm like, oh, like give me an eighth of this. So, I still got the same amounts that I got normally, even in the prepackaged stuff. But you could literally go in there and say, I've got $12.72, and they will give you $12.72 worth. I love it.
I love that. And it's funny that they're coming up with that now in Massachusetts, where it went the opposite of that here. When we moved here, it was still only medically legal. Everything was in jars like that. Not a lot of it was pre-packaged in these little, a plastic jar that's been shrink wrapped inside cardboard, inside more shrink wrap. There were very few that were like that. Most stuff was in the jars, and they would just weigh out however much you wanted, which I enjoyed. It was much more similar to what you and I are used to, where you just be like, I want an ounce or 2 ounces or a half or whatever. And you would just get it in a baggie and you were happy.
Now you have to have an engineering degree just to get it out of the packaging.
Yes. And then shortly after it became legal here, they started to move away from having it in the big jars and into it had to be in individually wrapped packages. And I loathe that. I hate it with the burning passion of 1,000 fiery suns.
See, that's what I was used to. So, because that's how it started here in Massachusetts. I think we're going in our third year of legalization, if I'm not mistaken. This is the first time I've seen this. And we're going on, I believe, year 3 of legalization here.
I think that's the right direction. I think Massachusetts is going in the correct direction. I think all the packaging is horrible.
Sometimes I'll go get pre-rolls. I can either get 3 or 5 in a package. Now, each pre-roll is individually packaged in a like hard plastic container, the shape of the pre-roll. And then that is in like a hard cardboard box with all these plastic mechanisms to avoid children from getting into them. So when you take the pre-rolls out and just pile up the garbage, you got a stack of garbage this big, this wide for, 5 little pre-rolls. I understand the theory behind keeping it out of the hands of people who shouldn't have it, but for God's sakes, you're killing the environment.
That is a lot of garbage, the sheer amount of packaging garbage. And most of it is the non-recyclable type of plastic and the non-recyclable type of cardboard, especially with so many hemp products available, hemp paper, hemp cardboard, hemp plastics even, that are super recyclable. I just think it's a shame.
One option also is like these thick, heavy glass jars. They are recyclable, but that's a lot of glass for a little amount of weed.
It is a lot of glass. And the other thing too is just put it in a fucking baggie. Get some hemp plastic baggies and just put it in a fucking baggie. Or if you go back to the same dispensary all the time or you have the same delivery place, reuse it. Like, how hard would it be for me to hand my delivery guy the container I just emptied as he's handing me a new full one? And then we
Well,
tackle it that way.
I kind of rotate around between maybe 4 or 5 different dispensaries, different stores, and
They should all
uh,
have a recycle bin right out front where you can drop off used packaging.
just this one, and like I said, this is the first time I've seen it. Just this one has that bud bar option. So it's not even like every place has that option. If I went in there with that same container kind of thing.
Honestly, I say vote with your dollars. Go to that place more often.
You wanna hear an irony about that particular store?
Yes.
That is the one that is owned and operated by Seamus's cousin. And they also promote as a veteran run and veteran employer business.
Well, good for them. Kudos for them. Shout out. What's their name?
CNA.
All right. CNA. Shout out to you guys. You're doing it right.
2 locations, Amesbury and Haverhill. Just saying. And these buds, can I just talk about the buds I got from
Please
the Bud Bar real
do.
quick?
Tell me.
So they were like that light green, super compact. I actually had to get a little hip with the times and break out my grinder.
Oh, yes, because a grinder is cutting edge technology.
For me, it is. For me, it is. So I broke out the grinder for this stuff, but it is like that pale green, beautiful, white, crystally. Like I could see why it maybe, okay, so maybe the banana name came, maybe it kind of could look like a banana. Maybe the buds surely doesn't taste like one, but I could see how maybe if you're high, the bud could look like a banana. So what do you think you're gonna put out there tonight?
Tonight, I'm going to take us to Colorado to a grand old. All right, I'm lighting a joint. To a grand old hotel. There was actually the inspiration for a movie.
Ooh, what movie?
The Shining.
No shit.
No shit. Now, I don't know
Ooh.
about you. This is considered one of the scariest movies of all time, even though the author of the book, Stephen King, that the movie is based on, hates the movie. He did not like it at all.
I thought most of his movies were based out of Maine.
A lot of them are. This one is based out of Colorado, as I try to light my joint. So back in the 70s, Stephen King and his wife Tabitha were traveling in Colorado. It was like 1974. It was snowing in Colorado, which honestly could be summer.
Shocker.
Right. It
Shocker.
could be summertime. But this was late fall, early winter. And when they got to the Stanley Hotel, it was actually the last night they were in operation before it was being closed down for the winter season because it didn't have any heat in the hotel.
Ouch.
Their credit card machines weren't working because, again, it was the last night and everything was being shut down. And it was very late at night when he and his wife Tabitha had gotten there. Luckily, Stephen King had cash and enough cash to cover a night. The only room they had available was Suite 217, which was the presidential suite at the time because it was the only one that had sheets still on the bed.
Not like the dude couldn't afford it, let's be honest.
So the author and his wife are wandering through this hotel. No other guests in this enormous hotel. Hey, guess how many rooms this hotel has, Shell?
How many?
420.
Really?
I'm not even joking.
That's awesome.
So 420 rooms. So 420 rooms amongst ballrooms and other types of rooms, music rooms. And so they're wandering around this deserted hotel with only a few very busy, quiet employees kind of furtively scuttling around. When they ate dinner, they were the only people in the enormous dining hall, and all of the other tables had the chairs up on top of the tables, kind of like you're getting ready to go home after school.
Where was everybody else?
It was the last day. It was the night that they were closing up before the whole entire hotel was going to be closed for the winter season. So they're the only ones in the dining room, and hardly anyone else is there. And after dinner, his wife went up to their room because it was just a little too creepy for her. And Stephen King decided to kind of wander around a little bit more. And he came upon a bar, and he says that there was a bartender there, but because they had closed everything up, the bartender refused to take any money, saying that all the registers had been closed out for the season, and so allowed him to drink for free. And as
Very nice.
Yeah, who doesn't love some free whiskey? He says it was very eerie, and he thought maybe he had imagined the bartender because no one was there when he went back later. And he hears some music in the ballroom, but there's nobody there, and all the electricity seemed to be off, but he would occasionally hear notes of music playing. And he found himself up on the 4th floor. On the fourth floor, he saw two children, not twins, but two children wandering around. And he went down and found someone at the front desk and asked them about the children up on the fourth floor. The person at the front desk told Stephen King that there were no children staying at the hotel, that Mr. King and his wife were the only guests, and that none of the employees had children there. Insisted that Mr. King must be mistaken. So after he finishes wandering around, he ends up back in his room, a little disturbed. He says the hallways were very eerie and they made him feel uncomfortable. And he went to sleep in room 217 and had a nightmare. And in this nightmare, he saw his 3-year-old son running through the halls of the hotel, terrified for his life, as if something evil was chasing him. And as his son ran through these hallways, Stephen couldn't get to him, and he heard his son let out a blood-curdling scream, and that's what woke him up out of this nightmare in a cold sweat. He got up out of bed and went out onto the balcony, and as he was smoking a cigarette, recalling that dream and his eerie experiences in the hotel that day, that's when the entire manuscript, that's when the entire novel, The Shining, came to him.
Oh, wow. So this was like the real Stephen King based on a real story that he really had in his life?
This is, yes, absolutely 100% true. This is based on Stephen King. He stayed in room 217.
No shit. I didn't know that.
Yes, this is an actual place. Now, a lot of what happened in the book, he did take liberties with some things, but there's no denying that the Stanley Hotel is extremely haunted.
Oh my God, can you stay there?
You can even stay in room 217. There is a wait list to stay there because it is considered one of the more haunted rooms of the hotel. Stephen King is not the only famous person to have stayed in that room.
Who's else has stayed there?
Jim Carrey.
That guy's kind of nutty. I love him.
I love that guy too. During the filming of Dumb and Dumber, they filmed some scenes in the Stanley Hotel.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes, like I believe in the bar, and there's a couple other locations there. So during filming, Jim Carrey requested to stay in room 217, knowing the history behind it. However, he didn't last the night.
No shit. Really?
Yeah.
I think that he seems like the type of guy that would muscle through it.
You'd think. What happened was apparently 3 hours after checking into room 217, a nervous Mr. Carey shows up at the front desk and asks if there are any available rooms. And when he finds out that the hotel is sold out, he left and went to another hotel rather than go back into the room. Reportedly, on the next day of filming, he refused to enter the hotel except when it was absolutely necessary to film the scene, and left immediately after and did not go back into the hotel at all during filming.
What happened? Tell me what happened.
He's been asked about it several times and he refuses to speak on it, and has even gone so far as to walk out of an interview when asked what happened in room 217.
No shit.
No shit.
Makes me want to watch Dumb and Dumber.
So here's the fun thing about the Stanley Hotel. There's no Ouija board. There's no demons. There's no witches. There's no murder. There's no Satanism. There's no connection to the underworld. As a matter of fact, it's actually a very happy place, and no more people have died there than have died in pretty much any other hotel.
Then what?
The Stanley Hotel was built in 1909 by F.O. Stanley, which is like a weird name, right? Freeland Oscar Stanley. He was an American inventor, entrepreneur. So, all good things that we love as Americans, right? And have you ever heard of the Stanley steamer? Does that ring any bells?
Yeah.
He invented the train car, the Stanley steamer, that was like faster than any other train car at the time. So he was like a multimillionaire, but he was dying of tuberculosis. So his doctor's like, hey, dude, you've got 6 months to live. All I can tell you is try to get some fresh air. Maybe that'll help. So he went out to Colorado to live in the mountains and die there. His doctor even made plans to come get his body 6 months later to bury him back east. So he goes to Estes Park, Colorado, and he doesn't die. As a matter of fact, he gets super healthy and takes hikes, and he loves it. The man lived till he was 91.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So he was cured in the mountains of Colorado, and he decided everybody, all his fancy friends, needed to go there, but it was a little too provincial. So he was going to build something that rich people would want to come to in Estes Park. So he builds this huge hotel. Only it wasn't a hotel at the time. It was only invite only. It was finished in 1909. And in 1911, there was a power outage, and one of the maids Mrs. Wilson, went into room 217, which was a suite at the time, to light the candles and the lamps. Unbeknownst to her, does anyone even say unbeknownst?
Sometimes. I don't know, maybe.
Unfortunately for her, there had been a gas leak. And as soon as she went to light the lamps, an explosion occurred that destroyed 10% of the hotel. The explosion was so bad, it knocked Mrs. Wilson through the floor and down into the first floor of the hotel. But miraculously, she only broke both her ankles. She survived.
Ouch.
No one was killed. They gave her her job for life, and she reportedly worked there until she passed away. And her ghost haunts room 217. However, what she does there is she puts people's clothes away. She unpacks their luggage. There's reports of her straightening their shoes. She's like a nice ghost.
She almost like a live-in maid.
Right. So it's room 217, which I guess is room 237 in the movie, because Stanley Kubrick thought that nobody would want to stay in a haunted room.
Yeah, people do.
But people do. So yeah, so she died in she didn't die in the room 217, but she died and still haunts room 217, but she only does nice things.
Wow.
So the concert hall is another very haunted area, and it's haunted by Flora Stanley, which was F.O. Stanley's wife at the time, and she can often be heard playing the piano. She loved being in the concert hall when she was alive. She didn't die there, but in death, she stays there quite a bit. Another ghost that's there is Paul, and he was the handyman for the Stanley up until his death, and he did die on the job in 2005 of a heart attack. One of his duties was telling people that it was curfew time, the 11 p.m. curfew, and actually you can hear him say, "Get out."
No shit. Can you really?
Yeah, people have recordings. They have those EVP, electronic voice phenomena recordings of him saying "get out" to people in the ballroom, and that's a very common thing.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Yeah, another ghost that wanders around the hall. This one I've heard two different backstories for is Lucy, and everyone agrees that she's a young woman, and by one account she was a young girl. By another account, she was a homeless woman who was staying in the boiler room or in the basement of the hotel. Or she was a young child that had wandered into the basement of the hotel. And when the staff threw her out, she froze to death outside. And it's said that her ghost still haunts and goes around in the concert hall. There's even pictures of her online. You can see pictures of many of the ghosts of the Stanley Hotel. What I thought was the most haunted, however, when we go to the Stanley Hotel, rather than wait in line to stay in room 217, which is booked months in advance, I would much rather stay on floor number 4.
What's floor number 4?
Floor 4 used to be the attic where the nannies would stay and the children and a lot of the maids and their children would stay. It's been separated into rooms, and that's the area where, from what I could find, most people experience hauntings. They hear footsteps above them, even though the roof is slanted and you can't walk on it. They'll hear nannies telling children to be quiet or to get in line. They'll hear children giggling and laughing or calling out names. I was watching a video of people that were doing an investigation, and they were speaking to some of the staff. And when they asked one of the women on the staff if she had ever experienced anything, she said she had, always on floor 4. That she wasn't afraid of any of the areas in the hotel that were reported to be haunted, but she always experienced something herself when she went to floor 4.
Oh, wow.
One of the rules that I found for the staff is it is a fireable offense if any of the staff fake anything or hoax any type of paranormal or ghost events at the hotel.
It's pretty sad that they have to actually put that in writing with their staff members.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me that that's kind of a protection. If you see or hear something unusual, you know it's not because the staff did it.
Right.
But on the 4th floor, there's several rooms. I won't do them individually, but there's like room 401, 407, 413. I mean, it could go on, but there's a lot of children up there, and there's experiences where kids staying in these rooms, like this one little boy staying in one of the rooms kept kicking his covers off, and a little boy ghost would tuck him back in. One of the other rooms is particularly haunted by children, and they'll move objects around the room. You know, you'll set your brush down and it'll be on the opposite table the next time you look.
I wonder why so many kids are there.
It's a good question. And again, one of the theories is that even though not a lot of people passed away there, it was a site of a lot of happiness. It healed that man of tuberculosis who built it. And a lot of people had found a lot of joy there. So one theory is that there are caves underneath the Stanley Hotel. They're used for storage, they're used for travel back and forth between things. And it's known that these caves consist mostly of limestone and quartz. And so there is a theory that something in the stone, something in the quartz there possibly creates a vortex. There's a staircase that people call the vortex. And it's a lot of sensitives say that it's a highway for spirits to go through there. So it's thought that maybe a combination of the type of stone underneath or something to do with the area. I believe there's a holy site for Native Americans that's nearby. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's considered that it might be a waypoint of sorts. And so happy people are there. So children who had a good time, who enjoyed their lives there with their nannies or with their mother who was a servant there may have had a very good time. And so their soul went back there.
So kind of the exact opposite of Sleepy Hollow, basically.
The exact opposite. One of the ghosts that people can't find a history for, but is a common theme, is the cowboy. Again, on the 4th floor, in a particular room, the cowboy will appear, usually to women. He likes to kiss women, or he'll run his hand up their back or on their head.
Yeah, he's a pervert.
He is. However, he's a polite pervert, I guess. One couple asked him to leave and he disappeared and didn't come back. The cowboy, often people will describe him as appearing at the corner of their bed or pacing back and forth at the end of their bed. So no one knows what his story is, but he's been reported by so many people, so many various people in that same room. There's no reports of any cowboy ever dying or any cowboy in particular ever having been there, but
yeah, but if it's kind of considered like a spirit superhighway rest stop, you don't know who you're going to get from where or for how long.
That's exactly right. There's even one of the ghosts, the person who originally owned the land was an Irishman, Lord Dunraven, and he sold the land that the Stanley Hotel resides on to F.O. Stanley. He also did not die there, but there's an Irishman in room 407 and dressed in old clothes that people are pretty sure has to be Lord Dunraven. So something about this site just keeps attracting ghosts to it.
Makes me want to go there.
You know how you get those little cards, like you can write about your stay. But one of the hotel managers said that 1 in 4 of their response, either through cards or some other way, 1 in 4 people reported some type of unexplained event happening while they were there. Doors opening and closing, things not being where they put them, their luggage being unpacked for them. In room 217, Mrs. Wilson doesn't like unmarried couples. Unmarried couples have often reported a cold presence between them in bed.
Wow.
Yeah, people, they see shadows going from one wall to another. They'll hear things, especially children and giggling, especially on the 4th floor. So it's just it's a lot of fun. It's interesting that this is a place where not a lot of bad things happen, but a lot of spiritual things happen and continue to happen.
Well, I am planning to go to this location. You and I.
Me too. It's a date.
We're going to we'll have to do a live broadcast and see what we can find, because this sounds like fun.
I
love this stuff. I love this stuff.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 4 of The Stoned Witches Hour.
With Shell.
And Layla.
And Weed.
This episode has been brought to you by Weed and the letter joint.
It's weederific.
And Fire OG. Brought to me by TGS Delivery, the gas station. Always an excellent choice in the IE. I love you guys.
I want delivery.
But I can't believe we have listeners. People want to listen.
Thanks, listeners.
Thank you. It's so much fun. I hope you guys had a fun time listening to us.
Check us out next week. We've got another couple interesting stories for you. I'll give you a hint. You want a hint about my next story?
Give me a hint about your next story.
Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
No shit. I'm doing an axe murderer next week.
Yeah, we're going to go and we're going to delve into the Lizzie Borden story.
I'm doing the Valeska murder house next week.
Ooh, that'll be great. Oh, so we've got like two like
Axe
deranged
murder house.
murderers. Yes. This will be good. This will be good.
Very good. Dueling axe murderers. East Coast versus West Coast. Which axe murderer was creepier?
So we'll get into some facts, we'll get into some history, but we're also going to get into some spookiness with it too.
Yay, I love that. I love a good spooky story. I am ready for next week.
See you then.
See you Wednesday.
420.
The Stoned Witches Hour. Thank you so much. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Email us your stoned stories, your paranormal stories, your strain recommendations. We will smoke it.
Also, if there's a place you want us to look into, investigate, find some spooky stories about, drop us a line.